research for this?
You know,
Yeah, right.
one thing about my education, it was more facts, or it was more superficial as to, you know, the learning, because that's what's going to be given on a test, rather than principles, and because I don't know a lot about the ideas behind the founding fathers, but the more I have learned about them in the past week or two, or and the fact that true principles are predictable, and that they are, and that whatever the government is trying to do, it goes back, and you have a internal measurement as to what it is that they're trying to accomplish. Yeah, and if it's true, no matter what it is, like Muhammad, that was something that I was thinking of. He was in Arabian or whatever, and I just kind of grouped it as a type, but yet they're talking about the things that he accomplished that were
Revolutionary,
and that they were true. And that kind of thing I would like to learn more about, and it doesn't matter who it is that is talking, or who it is that is putting it forth. It is a thing that you take it inside of your heart, and you can understand through the Spirit if it's true or not. And if it's not true, then you hopefully will be able to stand up for what is true. And so, anyways.
So I hear in that one a definition that principles are like a standard, something to hold to, a foundation, something that's not moving, so you can go out and get something, check back.
Yeah.
Whatever you find, you can measure it against that one thing. So I don't know if you call that standard or foundation, but I think that's another part of what a principle is. That was really good.
Going towards the question was what was most important, right? What you think was most important?
Yeah.
One thing that just struck me, and I'm not sure if there's an example of this, but in the Tyler cycle, we see ourselves kind of, I see us between apathy and dependence. I see us kind of between those, in making that transition. And is there any example in history where we've been able to get back to liberty and abundance without having
to be in bondage first?
Is there any way? I mean, I can tell you, yes, there's a way to step back. It's, well, just go back to liberty, to your roots, and but how do you actually persuade 250 million people to change their mindset without having something that utterly shakes them up?
Yeah.
And so is there any way to backtrack that? If not, then how do we get through the top of the cycle as darn as fast as we can? And how do we, I mean, if we can't, then shoot, let's put the propellers on and just get through it already, right? So how do we approach this?
Boyd K. Packer said that you're going to find that it will become darker and darker. But you have the light, if you want to, that can help you through that process. But as a whole, I think that according to the Corma 12, and I think that it'll get worse and worse. I don't think that but at the same time, I know that we have an obligation, a duty to teach and to spread out to other people the true basic foundation that that will help them to realize that they are headed towards a communist or a dark path, and that only in repenting or in learning to go back to the basics, and that is God and the foundational principles that will lead them back to faith and eventually abundance.
I think it's wise for us to kind of spot where we are on the cycle at any given time and jump back to where we need to go. Like if we find ourselves being complacent or apathetic, or we have the sense of entitlement for dependence, and we say, okay, now I'm going to go back over here. I'm going to focus on my spiritual faith and gather my courage and go towards liberty and live in abundance. I think, this may be a partial answer that each individual's decisions affect the energy and the state of the whole world.
Yeah.
So if we are courageous in choosing attitudes and intents, I think it's a contribution. Not all the contribution, but I think it is a contribution.